Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Right, Golden Miles Bhudu in the spotlight for now. By the way, tomorrow it's Natalie Dutoy. We're putting her in the spotlight. It'll be really good talking to her. And make a note of this as well. Tonight on Masachava's show, the talk shop from 7 o'clock. Well, they're in Cape Town, broadcasting from the UCT on the and covering the Stephen Bantu Biko lecture, the annual lecture. Should be really good getting her story indeed. But for now, Golden Miles Bhudu in the spotlight. So I wonder what you want to ask him. What's the one question you always wanted to ask him? And you often hear him on radio or TV or wherever else. 0891 104207. 0891 104207. Somebody said I should ask you. In fact, Golden Miles says you come in. Are you for real? So maybe it's a good way to start with hi.
Yes, I'm
Yeah, somebody said I should ask you, are you for real?
Yes, I'm a real thing. I've been around since time immemorial. I had, in fact, the privilege, which was not out of my own making, to be born and bred and been classified another colored.
Oh, you're another colored?
Yes, you must be reminded that many, many years ago there were this derogatory classifications from Kapse kleerling, ander kleerling, rechte kleerling and Malayse kleerling. So I was classified another colored, and I had the privilege to go to a colored school, and I can say without any fear of contradiction that in a colored school we all did our subjects in Afrikaans besides English, and in our curriculum none of those subjects were spiced with what was called inferior bad Bantu education mentality. And that is why I have become some of an enemy to the powers that be, some politicians who are lazy, who are steamrollers, and who don't like when you speak truth to power and talk without blurring the lines.
So how would you describe yourself as a person?
Well,
I said Golden Miles Bhudu, describe yourself in one sentence, you'd say what?
Well, this is also my apartheid name, my colonialist, imperialist, slavery name. You know, my grandmother, who is Zulu, Ukastina Noinyoni Mabaso, gave me the name called Wovugu Ibambe Wemakitas Begane. That is my real name. So when I went to the Department of Home Affairs to try and get that name installed into my ID, they said, no, Miles, you need to come back in 5 years' time because we do not have the software to spell that kind of name.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So you went at the Golden?
Well, the Golden is something that was given, as I said, it's an apartheid name. It was given by my father, I think. But as I said, the reason why we were classified other colors, my grandpa is a Hindu, my grandma is a Zulu from the side of my father. Okay. From the side of my mother, my grandpa there is a Scottish, and my grandmother on that side is also a Zulu. They are Arnold.
Okay, so you're the ultimate Rainbow Nation person then, aren't you?
Yes.
Tutu was talking about you.
So to speak, yes. Yeah.
All right, I'll get to some of the callers in just a second. Kashifa, stay on the line there. We'll talk to you. What are you doing now? I mean, what occupies your time?
Well, I remain a prisoner's rights, human rights activist, a civil rights activist, a civic rights activist, an environmentalist, and then a politician. The reason why politician come very last on my curriculum, I was told many years ago by an African philosopher that politicians are the scum of the earth. You find them here, you find them there, you find them everywhere. They lie, they are corrupt, they are serial rapists, they are criminals. That is why at the end of my curriculum I am a politician, but before I'm a politician I'm a human rights activist.
I mean, surely there are other politicians. We're not going down the route of all the accusations you made. There are many other people who are not politicians who can be guilty of all the same things as well.
Yes, but when you are a politician, then you do that with impunity. You do that as if you are above the law, and you do that as if you are a law unto yourself.
So if I called you a politician, you'd take offense?
Well, not really, but I will tell you that politician is very last on my curriculum vitae. I am first a human rights activist. I listen and I hear, and then thereafter I talk, and if that's not enough, then I act.
Okay, I want to find out what are the biggest issues on your human rights activity. Let's get to the callers. Kashifa in Mpumalanga. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for calling.
Miles.
Hello.
Can you still remember Rashid and Kashifa from Kinross?
Yes. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm fine. And yourself?
I'm fine. We're still in Kinross.
No. I'm in Nigel, Eldorado Park in Joburg. I used to work in a laboratory, but
Whenever you're on TV, Rashid say, Miles hasn't changed one bit.
that is why they got rid of me in Cecil too, because after I had done my national diploma in analytical chemistry, I became a Langster bandit.
Oh my goodness.
Shit, hey, we must have a reunion.
So-
We must get you, Kenny, all of them together here in Kinross and have a reunion, man.
Kashifa, how long do you know him for? I mean, how old was he when you knew him?
I came here in 1982. And whenever somebody came to work by Cecil, ask Miles, they first had to come have breakfast or lunch or supper by my house.
Yes, it's true.
So tell me, even then, did you spot something? Because you said Rashid said he hasn't changed. What did you guys spot in him even 20 years ago to say
That
this guy's?
outspokenness. And
Okay.
Miles, are you still doing the Michael Jackson steps?
No, I'm aging. I'm doing the Tupac Chucky thing, the picture me rolling thing,
God, myself, Willa, you know Willa?
Yes.
The two of us are still here.
Yeah.
The rest is all gone out of Kinross.
Is Willa still the big boss there?
Yeah, he's still in the lab. He's still in the lab.
Oh goodness! All right.
I'll come around.
Okay.
This is a nice trip down memory lane. Thanks for that call, Kashifa,
Okay.
in Mpumalanga
Bye.
and Kinross, in fact. Well, anybody else knows Golden Miles Bhudu personally, wants to say hi to him, also knows him as the firebrand that he always was, and maybe wants to reflect on his personality and maybe ask him some very important questions, because he's very outspoken, there's no question about that. I know that. So if you want to pick his brain on some of his views, you certainly can. Call into 0891 104 207. My name is Ashraf Garda. This is the afternoon talk show, and we do this every afternoon after 3. We put somebody in the spotlight, somebody high profile. Today it's the turn of Golden Miles Bhudu. You can SMS to me too as well to 34701. That's going to cost you 2 rand, 34701. You can also tweet to Ashraf Garda 1, and you can also comment on Facebook, and I'll read that on my page. That is just like the page for you to do just that. Okay, so you're this human rights activist. What are your 3 biggest issues now that trouble you?
It's, the civic activism has waned, where people all the time will have to be told what they must do and not what they want to do. I've listened to the president yesterday, and I think the day before yesterday, and the deputy president yesterday, when they were speaking and making presentations at the Salga conference in Galaga Estate. It's 2 different views that comes from both the deputy president and the president. And I have always been of the opinion that Salga was established with the intention to silence the voice of dissent. What government was supposed to do, they were supposed to empower the South African National Civic Organization, which is the people on the ground. And I think if they did that and not do what they did and extending the gravy train to some other politicians into Salga, I think we were going to have less and less protests. Delivery protest, which is becoming the order of the day.
So are you saying civic activism has waned, or has increased? In fact, it's increased.
No? Well, civic activism has died down, so to speak. We are of the opinion it is the people in the streets, the people in the zones, the extensions, the people in the flats, the people in backyard dwellers and hostel dwellers that knows exactly what is happening on the ground. And if they were empowered, civically, politically, economically, and otherwise, they were going to be the eyes and the ears of the government, and government would have known long before there is a wildcat service delivery protest what was the main grievances, demands, and problems.
So that's the one thing. What's the other one you want to pick up on?
I want to pick up with the issue of economic freedom, not only in our lifetime, because we have been around the block more than twice. Economic freedom in the lifetime of the generation to come. Currently, I am also a spokesperson of an organization called the Wildebeest Everton Community Organization in the Vaal, that has been in a protracted land claim since December 1998. The case is on and off the roll, at the Randburg Land Claims Court, where they're claiming that the entire Wildebeestfontein farm belongs to the people, and it must go back to the people, including the wealth that is underneath the ground there. That is why we are marching on the 21st of this month to Attersholm Metal SA to submit a memorandum of grievances and demands of the people in the so-called Greater Val, but we are now calling it the Greater Wildebeestfontein area.
Marikana, what's your take on this?
Well, the police should have never been at the copy, let alone near the copy to start with. I don't think you have to use the battle of the gun to try and be a mediator when it comes to labor disputes. They should have never been there. If they were instructed to be around there, they should have gone to protect maybe personal or private property, and that's the mine. But I'm also now convinced that the reason why we have saw this massacre is you've got leaders that we have been invested with power to lead from up front and make sure that poverty is not only alleviated but eradicated, that unemployment becomes history, and that economic inequality is get addressed. That the people that we have been given that kind of mandate are the very same people who are silent partners of this big conglomerates. They are shareholders. Some of them don't even have shareholders' documents. Some of them don't even have shareholder certificates. Some of them are not even called into shareholders' meetings, but they are the shareholders of this big company. And I'm telling you, if they don't do something about what we see is happening, the African Spring is around the corner.
Okay, you're not the first person to say so. Yeah. Beware the African or the South African Spring as opposed to the Arab Spring. Golden Miles Bhudu with me in the spotlight up to about a quarter to 4. I'll read the SMSs to in a second. 34701 if you wish to SMS me, so I can read it and read it out to Golden Miles Bhudu. Now let's then talk about your own life. I mean, my understanding of you first is when you spoke out against prison abusers, but your story before that is you landed up in prison anyway. Talk to me about that.
Well, I was, as the first caller made it clear, I was working for Cecil. I was a rebel there because as a other coloured who has passed matric with flying colours with maths, science and biology, and South African Indians and South African whites were the only ones that were allowed to work as laboratory assistants and laboratory analysts and laboratory technicians. So I was part of that whole arrangement. But I was very outspoken because our black brothers with the same qualifications could not work as laboratory analysts, but as sample boys. Okay. And I was dismissed after I...
Is this Cecil? Or
it's Cecil too in Secunda.
Right, okay.
I couldn't get a job anywhere, regardless of the fact then I had then now a national diploma in analytical chemistry, a nationale diploma in analytische chemica. Okay.
You sound like a politician. I should just tell you that anyway.
I couldn't get a job anywhere, and then after 18 months, I got a job at Bay Agrochem, which was in Nigel Foster Screwen. It's the industrial area. I couldn't last for a year there because the abuses that was going on at that company was worse than the ones I knew from Cecil. And then thereafter, I bumped into a first deputy or assistant manager of Lapnus Furniture at Nigel. I bumped into him at a glorified Shabin, and we started to discuss how we could arrange an inside job to ransack the whole the storeroom of that Lapnus warehouse. And I got 3 of my friends, and then we went there. It was an inside job. We help ourselves. We ransacked the whole warehouse with household furniture.
So you guys were crooks?
Something like that. Well, that is what they call us then. But for us, it was more like redistribution of the country's wealth. Nowadays, they call it affirmative shopping. Nowadays.
So which one was it? I mean, at that stage, were you What motivated you? Because you needed the money and you were a crook?
Well,
and you were a
I
thief,
was.
or you were doing it for political gain?
Look, I was educated. I had experience to work in a laboratory. I couldn't get a job because of my references wherever I went, and I then had to survive. And as I said, nobody was shot here. Nobody was injured. Nobody was victimized of harass. Nobody was pointed with a gun. It was an inside job. The guy that I met at this glorified shebeen made duplicate keys. We went into the storeroom, we opened it, and we got the trucks inside Lapness, and we loaded the furniture, and each and every one of us took his or her loot. But my loot was discovered 3 days thereafter because we were not professional thieves. If we were first going to get buyers and then go and get the loot, but we then went to get the loot.
And you stored it at home or something like that?
I stored it at a place where my grandfather used to had a shop, and this loot was discovered within.
So bottom line, you got caught and you were convicted.
Yes, I was convicted, and I was told, good, look, the magistrate told me that, look, you couldn't load all this furniture all by yourself. You guys must have been 3, 4, 5. Tell us with who you were, so that maybe if we found you guys guilty, then you can share the sentence. And I denied. And then the magistrate said, okay, you want to take the rep, you want to be a hero, here is 6.5 years. And then that's when I was sentenced to 6.5 years. So it's brak me die opset om te steel.
So why did you deny? One question. The second one is, how did you feel about the 6.5 year sentence?
Well, it was way back, and I was a very young, angry man who was treated unfairly by a very ruthless apartheid system. I lost my job not because I was incompetent. I've lost my job because I was outspoken, and in fact, I was the one that was preaching for a chemical workers union for workers in Cecil in the early 80s, whilst I was in Cecil too. So I was very angry because when I lost my job with my national diploma in analytical chemistry, I couldn't get a job, and I went into a glorified shebeen. I met somebody, we had a discussion, and I pulled this job, but it was not a professional job. That is why I got arrested and I had to pay the price for it.
So with hindsight?
Well, when I ended up in prison, I then find out that being a chemist or being a person with a national diploma was not worth it. I then become an activist, a prisoner's rights activist. And I need somebody to help me write a book about how I spend my time at Modderby prison. Because when I was released there in 1991, not long thereafter, there was a riot that brought Tokyo Sexwale and Jesse Duwata to Modderby prison, where prisoners wanted to break that prison down brick by brick and go home because they believed that they were victim of an apartheid criminal justice system, a system that was criminal in itself.
Okay, so two things that we're chatting to Golden Miles, Bhudu. One is, when you got convicted, I just want to move on from that one. When you got convicted and you were hit with 6 years, were you shocked at the length of the sentence, and did you feel the remorse to say, actually, I should not have done this, or did you feel, well, I did the right thing?
No, I didn't have any remorse, because I was convinced that I was convicted by a criminal government to start with. Number two, I went there and I did my time, and when I got there, I then realized that, what we are being told and what we've read in the newspapers about what prison is all about, it is the real thing. The South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights, by the way, was established through the instigation of the Delmas Trialists 2. We had the Delmas Trialists 1, which was the Popo Malifis and the Terror Quarters. They went in 1988. When I got there from Nigel prison to Modderby prison, in 1988, I bumped into the second Delmas Trialist. I was a teacher for a few months. I was dismissed, and I was then sent to Gangster Paradise. That was a section where there is no schooling, there's no recreational activities. It was just gangsters and gangsters and gangsters. And as an inmate, that correctional officers had a liking because I was fluent in Afrikaans. I had a lot of influence among all the gangsters. I ended up being a cleaner at the hospital, and that's where I bumped into the Delmas trialists too. And they influenced us to establish an independent structure away from the gangsters, because the gangsters were each and every day on one another's throat.
So you never became a gangster?
No. I couldn't be a gangster.
How do you survive? I mean, we haven't been to prison, the majority. I mean, you've been. How do you then survive if you can't? Because many say you have to choose sides.
Well, when I was in prison, I was liked by warder and prisoners alike, because I was fluent in Afrikaans and English, and in Zulu and Xhosa. I was charismatic. I had a lot of style and attitude, you know.
Some may say you still have style and attitude anyway. Yeah.
And in fact, the South African Prisoners Organization's constitution was plagiarized from the ANC constitution, because this is what those MKKers gave us to say, look, if you guys want to establish an independent structure away from the gangsters, use this constitution and tamper with it and make it suitable for what you guys are in for here. And this is what we did. And that resulted in me becoming so befriended with them. I then drafted a road map, how they could escape from Modderby prison. And they escaped on a particular day, a particular month, at a particular time. And there is one guy that...
So you planned it?
I planned it for them, because they told me that they were arrested and they were charged for sabotage.
And what year was that?
That was in 1988, 1989.
Okay, goodness, you've had a fascinating life. So some of the SMSs we've had... So what do you think about the Hundla method of villages for South Africa? Ashraf, you are talking to a genuine leader. This guy is not a paper tiger. Comes from Vuzi Muzi, Nobadula. Ashraf, please say hello to my old school friend, Bhudu. It's Ursula Morden here. Yeah. You are still the Bhudu I got to know back then. Keep going, love. And then David saying, great stuff, Ashraf and Miles. David from Grahamstown enjoying it. Another one, Ashraf, your guest is right. Politicians are all polite tricksters who can manipulate people's sentiments. And that comes from Bangizwe. An interesting one, Ashraf. Who is funding you, Mr. Bhudu? Question mark, and you can answer that one there. Okay, you can answer those in one go. Let's start with the last one. Who's funding you?
No funds at all. You know, the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights was well funded until such time Comrade Thabo Mbeki became the president of this country. And then not long thereafter, all the donors, national and international donors, were called into a Waarheidkamer. And then told that, look, as from today, we will have to work on legislation that the funding that goes to NPOs must via government. And that hasn't changed to date. I am not funded. I am impoverished. But I lived all by the Spirit of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. I am not a bling-blinger. I don't like fancy things. All what I like is to speak truth to power and make sure that I stay on the right side of the law, and all the
So no stealing?
Nothing at all.
Furniture out? Just double checking.
I had it. You know, there is no dirty linen in my cardboards, and I am constructively confrontational and arrogant, but constructively, and I never take no for an answer. And that is, in fact, a chemical formula that I worked out in the laboratory to do away with bad inferiority, Bantu education mentality. Stay on the right side of the law. If you've got skeletons in your cupboards, take them all out, hang them there so that people can get used to them. And whilst you do that, please do not accumulate other dirty linen whilst you have hang out the other dirty linen that you have taken out, okay? Be constructive in your criticism, in your confrontation, in your arrogance, and never ever take no for an answer.
Never ever take no for an answer. Well, what does that really mean? We'll find out. We'll continue chatting to Golden Miles Bhudu, putting him in the spotlight. Let's get the news headlines now, 3:30. Certainly have a hot guest with me, Golden Miles Bhudu. Very clear, I'm controversial, I'm arrogant, and everything else he said about himself. But he's also in the spotlight, a man who doesn't take no for an answer. So, would you stand for president?
Not now.
Okay.
No,
you didn't say no.
No, not now.
Okay.
Not now. The time is not right. I see one of the questions that I've been sent to come to the program is that who is that I would like to take out for lunch and why?
Yeah.
I would like to take out Julius Malema for lunch.
Okay.
And the reason would be to double check whether his handbrake and foot brake cables hasn't snapped or haven't they worn out.
Okay. Explain that to people who don't understand the graphic detail that you're talking about there.
You see, it's like Julius Malema has got handbrakes and foot brakes, but it's like even if a robot is red, he just skip the robot, and you don't know when to pull up his handbrake when he has parked the car, or when to use his foot brake when he's about to approach another car in front of him. One needs to double check it, and maybe.
Are you saying you're unsure of his politics?
Well, I'm not sure about why is he just. Even if the robot is red, you just skip the robot. Each and every man must have his limitations, man. Can you feel me, man? Am I clear to you? You know what I'm saying? It's like Julius Malema. I haven't never met him.
You haven't met him?
No, never.
You want to meet him for lunch? Okay.
Yes, for lunch, and say, look, your handbrake cables, are they still there? Have they snapped? Are they worn out? Can we replace them with some new stuff so that you must know exactly when to put up your handbrakes and when to hit the brakes with your foot.
But when he was charged at one stage, you were supportive of him, right?
Very much.
And now?
Ironically, I never met the man. As a laboratory technician, I hear what he says and I take a lot of things that he says, and those that are, by the way, issues, and those that are some of these issues, I just leave them out as I take them into my laboratory and do the final analysis on the product that must go to quality control and then go to the main plant for production.
Okay. Enough on Julius Malema. Who's the one politician that you most admire now? And I don't mean Mandela, just leave him out of the picture. He's retired. One of the current politicians, amongst the many that you don't like, and I know you've said that already.
That's it.
Who do you admire?
That's it. Thank you very much for that question. Thank you. My wife also admires this politician. That's Thabo Mbeki's brother, Moleketse. He doesn't speak bombastic, big words, English, blah, 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 He just, and when he responds to a question, a half a minute or 1 minute is enough. It is simple. It is clear, it is to the point, and you could understand how he speaks English, how he answers the questions, so much so that you even remember what he says a few weeks ago. I admire that.
But you see, he may say he's not a politician.
Well, when it's not dark, then he's not a politician.
Okay. Some of the Facebook comments I want to pick out, and the names are political names. Samora, by the way. Miles should be a comedian. I honestly do not take him seriously. However, I enjoy listening to him.
Yes, okay. You get comedians who are politicians, and you get politicians who are comedians. In fact, when you listen to Barack Obama when he speaks, and then you listen, and not long thereafter, he breaks that ice, and everybody just go laughing as if they've been addressed by this guy. What do you call him? This colored guy who is very popular in this country.
Who are you? You're talking of Trevor Noah?
Yes. Yeah. No. I've got no problem about it. As long as you don't say Miles has got the DNA of a dictator, then I would be very worried.
Okay. Police are saying Golden said that politicians are rapists, corrupt, and he claims to be a politician. Can you ask him if he himself is a rapist and corrupt? But he said he was a... Okay, that's the question. All right.
Well, but haven't the person listened? Before I am a politician, you will have to go through my CV that I'm a human rights activist, personal rights activist, civil rights activist, civic rights activist, and environmentalist. Then I become a politician. It's very last on my curriculum vitae. Okay. So,
but when you get there,
when I get
then
there,
you may be corrupt and all the other things that you've accused politicians in broad strokes.
I can't, because I've been influenced from where I come from. I sit there and I made my point without any fear of contradiction, because I know that I am on the right side of the law most of the time, and I've got no dirty linen in my cupboard.
Right. Mishak saying, so what are his values and why he took a firm public stance in support of Juju? Does the DCS do corrective behavior on prisoners? Interesting one.
Juju started to talk about something that was almost 275 years older than him, And after the Kliptown declaration of the Freedom Charter, maybe 27 years older than him, he started to talk about issues that was very, very much older than him. That was the land, the wealth that is underneath the soil, economic freedom in our lifetime, and nationalization not only of the mines but other strategic sectors within our community. So to narrow the gap of poverty, unemployment, and also make sure that economic inequality becomes history. Those are the issues that I take from what he says. The rest, I don't even bother myself, because it's my democratic right not to listen to what I regard as gibberish.
Okay, let me ask you this. I complete the sentence. I love it when South Africans do what?
When they stand together and want to be heard without any fear of contradiction. You see the problem with South Africans, and it hasn't come out of their own doing. There was this project. If you read the book, The Mind of South Africa, subtitled The Story of the Rise and the Fall of Apartheid by Alistair Spark, you will realize that when the white man came here the first time, he didn't come here with the intention to develop, to train, to educate, and to empower. He then realized that there was life here. And then they started to strategize, that they must make sure that whoever they found here will be their subjects. And that is where it all started.
So that's what you love. And I hate it when South Africans do what?
When they sit there and want to complain and be backbenchers and then give an impression that they are made to be backbenchers. They are made to take the backseat.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you want to meet Malema. That's different. Let's say you meet the president, Zuma, for lunch. You do meet him. We arrange it. What would you put on the agenda? One item.
Well, I met him long before he became a president.
Okay,
I met him also.
But now, if you meet him now, what would you, and you set the agenda, what would you put on?
I would say to him, look, President, you will have to sometimes ignore and resist advice that comes from your special advisors. This is what Madiba did. I have met President Mandela before he became the president of the country, whilst he was the president of the ANC. And he was a man that I couldn't spend 15 minutes with him, even though I'm the one that has called to meet him. 15 minutes was enough, because he was sitting there and he was ruling and he was taking decisions, and he was, in fact, doing what one never thought he was going to do, And my advice to President Zuma is, look, sometimes I believe, from where I'm sitting, some of these advisors are ill-advising you, are misleading you, and maybe it is not an excuse that you listen to some of these guys.
Okay, somebody, Marlon Padiachi emailing me saying, Ashraf, good to get the Golden Miles Bhudu into the studio. Ask him how long will it take him to meet Correctional Services Minister Sibu Ndebele.
Sibu Ndebele should have met me a few weeks ago. You know, when you have a minister who comes there and don't know what is happening and rely on the deadwood information that he finds there and don't want to speak to Golden Miles Bhudu, then you must know that the department is spiraling downwards as it used to spiral since time immemorial. The minister should have by now took his own advice and be Sibu Ndebele, who doesn't know nothing about the Department of Correctional Services, and called me into his office so that we have a man-to-man chat. I am not interested in his work. I'm not interested to be his advisor or his commissioner, but I was going to be a resource to him to make him understand, look, this is not a Department of Transport. This is prison, and this is what is happening here.
What is the best day in your life?
When I sit at home on Sundays, reading subscription, I get subscription, to be specific, from the Star, Saturday Star, and Sunday Independent. I'm 6 months in arrears in reading my subscriptions. But I'm going to make sure that I read them and I'll finish them before the end of this year.
And that's the best day in your life?
Yes, Sundays.
Okay.
I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to read my subscriptions.
Okay. But is there a single worst day that's happened to you in your life? One day where, that is the worst day of your life?
No, not really.
Not even when you went to prison? No.
No, because Ashraf, one must never be apologetic in what you say, in what you write, in what you do. You know, I wrote a book in Afrikaans entitled Die Rampokkerij van die regstelsel vis-à-vis konfronteer die tronkkrisis. Lapa uitgewers, publishers don't want to publicize the book. Tafelberg uitgewers don't want to publicize the book. It's a book in Afrikaans, and I hope someday there will be somebody that will be interested in publishing this book, because I am not a writer. I just decided to write this book.
Okay. Who's had the greatest influence on your life?
Bill Clinton.
Why so?
Because, you know, when he was the president, I used to watch this American, and then he speaks. You don't have a note in front of him. You don't have some paperwork. You just speak from the heart. You know, and then I, for years, tried to emulate him.
So did you work on yourself when you get interviewed on radio or TV? I mean, did you spend time sort of polishing yourself up, because you know you're playing to a big audience?
No, not really. You see, I speak from the heart. You know why? Because I don't have to think twice and speak thrice. You know, in America they say double talking and triple thinking, or triple thinking and double. That's not what I do.
All right.
Yeah.
There's I'll read the last SMS. Man, you speak my language, Mr. Miles. I'm an Afrikaner. Well, let's see. To me, is the best. God bless. And that comes from Maria. Right. Couple, we've got about a minute to go. Give me a book that you'd recommend that we should read, that we must read.
You must read the book, The Mind of South Africa.
Okay, that's the one you mentioned, from Alistair Sparks.
Yes.
The Mind of South Africa.
Subtitled The Story of the Rise and the Fall of Apartheid.
All right.
When Jan van Riebeeck came here with the Goedehoop, the Dromedaris and the Reiger. And then what is called now Cape of Peninsula became so attractive to these guys. They wanted to cuff it
Okay,
off.
well, we don't have enough time for that. Let them read the book. Okay, so we must read that book. Give me the last thing. Give me a quote that will really inspire all of us.
Don't dig your grave deeper whilst you're in it.
What does that mean for you?
When you're in a grave, please don't keep on digging. Just wait there. Maybe somebody will come and
Take you out
or rescue you. Because what's happened, this is what happened with the politicians of nowadays. They fall into a grave and they keep on digging and digging and digging.
Okay. Lastly, we know many people are pretty disillusioned about some issues South African at the moment. If I spoke to you in 5 years' time and we spoke about South Africa, what would you tell me? But I'm going to give you 15 seconds to answer that.
I will tell you that. So I told you. So
you told me what?
I told you that the people take a back seat and they in fact want to become backbenchers and then want to blame the next person. I told you, have the people stood up now. In 5 years' time, we were going to have politicians, government, people in big conglomerates listening to what the people want.
Okay, and Golden Miles, we've been listening to what you had to say for the last 45 minutes. Whether people take your advice is another story. Thanks for allowing us to put you in the spotlight.
It was a pleasure.
Indeed. Golden Miles Bhudu in the spotlight. Hopefully you got a chance to get to know the personality behind some of the issues that indeed he does talk. 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 That indeed